Just how much finger pressure does it take to play guitar? Find out next in this video. How much finger pressure does it take to play guitar? Very little. If you look at the distance that the string is from the fret, it's very, very short, very small distance. And you don't have to press very far to touch the string to the fret. Of course, the problem is once you touch the string to the fret, how hard do you press? A lot of people are going to touch the string to the fret, squeeze really, really, really hard. And if you can feel the wood of the fingerboard below the string, you're probably pressing too hard. One of the exercises I like to show brand new students is whenever you get a shipment from Amazon or from mail or whatever, you get these really fun little, like who doesn't like to do that? Come on, super fun, right? Get this bubble wrap. Okay, well before you pop them all, what's cool about this is that this is a great guitar exercise. This is one of the ways that I like to show how much pressure you would use to play the string. If you get, let's say with your index and your thumb, if you can pick up some of this, give you an excuse to order something online. If you get one of these bubbles in between your fingers and you squeeze, now don't just grab it and squeeze it, right? Just barely touch it with any pressure, just barely any pressure. And then slowly start squeezing until it pops. Do it a bunch of times. It's super fun. Okay, and take note of the point at where the bubble bursts. Do it for every single finger. Your first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth. Do it for every finger. It's going to feel slightly different. It's more than likely your middle finger is very, very strong. Index finger is probably pretty strong. Your third finger, the ring finger, and then the pinky finger are probably the weakest, especially the pinky finger. It's going to feel like you're going to have to push really, really, really hard with your pinky. That one was popped already. Push really, really hard, right? It's also kind of awkward because we don't normally use our thumb alongside the fourth finger. Okay, we don't do that. But it's going to feel like it's easy with your middle finger, harder with your fourth finger. Do this a bunch of times. Like I said, it's great fun. But you really start to learn how much pressure it takes to play guitar. If we transfer that to the guitar, let me start with my index finger here. If I just touch my finger to the string, no pressure, obviously the string doesn't touch the fret. If I push the string to where it just contacts the fret, that's like holding the bubble on the bubble wrap. Okay, so this is a muscle memory awareness exercise, right? The more you pop the bubble wrap intentionally, one should always pop bubble wrap intentionally, I believe, but you start to get a feel for when the bubble pops. If you press a little bit harder, if you can get that muscle memory of where the bubble popped, then you know how much pressure it takes for each finger. Just do it for each finger. Now we have another sort of feedback device with the guitar, if you pardon the pun. If I were to play these notes, now this is just on the third string. I'm on the fifth fret. Okay, it's that note right there, a C note. If I were to just barely touch the string and try to play that note, it's not doing anything, right? It just mutes that note out. If I press the string to where it touches the fret, it's just touching the fret. Again, that's like just grabbing the bubble on the bubble wrap, not squeezing it, just touching it. You can hear kind of a note right there, right? But you mostly hear that buzzing sound. And as you squeeze a little bit harder, you get to the point where the buzz goes away. And as it turns out, that's right about 12 or 13 ounces, thereabouts, of pressure. And that's again, thereabouts the pressure it takes to pop the bubble wrap. So you don't need to squeeze super duper hard. Some people, when they're first learning guitar, they think one of two things. Either you have to grab the string, squeeze it really tight in order to play, or that you barely have to touch it and it'll make sound. That's what I thought when I first learned. I thought you didn't have to touch these very hard, and sound would come out. And I was kind of shocked to realize, oh no, you actually have to use some finger pressure. And then I proceeded to use a little bit too much. And I had a teacher that thankfully helped teach me otherwise. So kind of step one is to go through that exercise, get yourself some bubble wrap, and then kind of go back and forth with each finger. Now, once you do that, you need to learn the pressure of each finger. There's a muscle memory for each finger that you have on your left hand and each fingertip. And we have to learn those individually, but then we also, since our fingers and our left hand is working as a unit, we then have to learn how to use that as a unit. And one of the ways I like to do that, there are two ways actually, but the first way is I like to get my fingers, as you can see, they're kind of hovering above the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th fret of the 3rd string. Which fret you're on doesn't really matter, but I like to choose the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's in the, more or less the middle of the neck. It's relatively easy to play those notes. So I like to start there. Okay, so, and what I would do is I would touch each of the strings, and notice I have each finger really close to the fret on which it's supposed to be playing. It's not in the middle of the fret where when I play it, it's gonna make a bad noise kind of no matter what I do. But right next to each fret. Now I'm gonna press down with even pressure on all of these fingers. Again, this is gonna take some time to do whenever you've gone through the bubble wrap popping exercise and the individual string pressure exercise, just to see how much pressure it takes for each finger. They will all feel different. But what you need to get is kind of the equalization of the pressure within your hand. So when you feel this exercise right here, where you're holding constant pressure and the proper constant pressure, that 12 or 13 ounce bubble wrap popping pressure on each finger, you can feel it evenly on your hand. It needs to get to the point where it's kind of it's almost a relaxing feeling. At least it is for me. I get the guitar, touch my fingers to the guitar, and immediately my muscle memory for this particular activity just starts firing into action in my brain and in my fingertips. So what I would do, this next step, whenever you have all these in place, starting with my index finger, I'm going to release the pressure of my index finger. Notice I raised it off of the string. Also notice I only raised it about a half an inch or so, not very far. I didn't go way away from the guitar, just a short distance away. Released pressure. And that's important. I feel the pressure completely releasing on the index finger. None whatsoever. What's also important is that the pressure on the remaining fingers stays the same. So when I release this index finger, I don't feel any pressure change on these 3 remaining fingers. I feel full pressure release on the first finger. I would do that a few times. Release pressure, and then when I continue with pressure on the index finger, then I just feel it pick up its 12 to 13 ounces of pressure. No pressure, and then the full pressure. Then I just go to each finger individually. Do it for a few minutes for each finger. And slow, right? This is muscle memory. It's like picking up a pencil and learning how to write with a pencil or how to tie your shoe. It's laborious at first, but then it gets easier. Release the middle finger pressure. Feel how the other fingers are. All the pressure shouldn't change. And I just add the pressure of the middle finger. Then you go to the 3rd finger. Once you get to the 3rd finger and 4th finger, it's important to keep your fingers close by the strings, because what you'll notice with the 3rd finger is that once you try to release it from the string, release pressure, but maintain pressure on your remaining fingers. Our third finger and fourth finger, for that matter, aren't very independent of our hand. So I kind of can't move this third finger farther away. That's about as far as I can move it anyway. Go to the fourth finger, same thing. About a half an inch away. That's important because a lot of what we do on guitar relies on this kind of finger independence, right? Independence of one finger, but the maintaining of pressure on other fingers that are nearby. Very important exercise. Okay, the opposite of that exercise, in a way, is where I would have each of my fingers hovering above the fret. And again, about a half an inch distance. What I would do is then, and there's no pressure, what I would do is, starting with the index finger, press the string with the proper pressure. Okay, bubble wrap popping pressure. And notice the other fingers, they're only moving a tiny bit. It's pretty much impossible to have them relaxed but motionless. That's pretty much impossible. But you can tell they're not moving much at all. I would do the same thing with the middle finger. What you don't want to do is this, which is the first instinct of just about everybody. Call this middle finger into action, and then an opposite, a reaction from the other fingers. That's what we don't want. We want each finger to maintain their lack of pressure in this exercise and just the one finger being called into pressure action. It's a great way of learning finger independence. It's also very difficult. And it could be kind of tedious and kind of laborious. The good news is you don't have to do this all the time. When you're first learning guitar, if you go through this exercise, it helps tremendously. And once you learn it, it's part of your muscle memory. This is just like tying a shoe, just like learning how to write with a pencil. Once you kind of laboriously go through the process, you learn it, then you forget all the necessary steps that there were to learning it. Then you just use that particular device for creative action. So go through this exercise, go through it, and give it some time. However long it takes you to really understand what each finger is doing and what your hand overall is doing throughout this exercise. And I hope it works well for you. Hope you spend the time doing it, and it will improve your playing. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.